We got about 10 more minutes. I got to ask you a question about what I believe that the future is going to be here. So I think we talked about the inflection point about adoption with Copilot and Google. And we also talk about if money was free like it was 2 years ago, would this have just been, you know what I mean? Like from a venture capital standpoint, are you finding that the right companies are actually getting the money for this? Or do you, because if this happened 2 years ago, this would have been a powder keg.
So, I mean, you have to be an AI company to get venture funding right now, generally, in the technology space. Like, if you don't.
Yeah.
So, right when ChatGPT came out, so I've always been preaching AI for a really long time. And there were definitely some organizations that I assumed were doing more with AI than they were just publicly acknowledging. And that at some point we would just hear about all the amazing things they were doing. Then ChatGPT came out and I started getting the phone calls from these companies, and I realized that they in fact hadn't done anything and they didn't really realize what was about to happen. So what I started telling venture capital firms immediately was, you have to right now go audit your entire portfolio of SaaS companies, and you have to find out who on those teams understands what's happening right now and can build a roadmap for a smarter product. Because if they don't, they're going to get run over. And then do not spend another dime of investment dollar into a company that doesn't have someone on board or a team on board who understands this moment and what's about to happen. You cannot build product the same way you built it yesterday. So that was my guidance, is like immediately the SaaS industry got flipped upside down. And so you saw a lot of people that maybe were going to get funding getting their term sheets pulled. You had a lot of people who just got funding, whose VCs were now questioning the decision they had made, because did ChatGPT just obsolete a bunch of these companies that were getting funding? Because again, generative AI existed before ChatGPT. There was plenty of funding going into generative AI companies, but ChatGPT made it to where these things could be obsoleted really quickly. So I think now we're in this phase where VCs are sitting on the sideline with massive amounts of money because they don't know, go back to earlier, where the moats are. They don't know which companies are defensible. The assumption right now is two main factors: data and distribution. So if you're a software company that has tons of proprietary data or a massive user base or both,
Right.
you have a much better probability of surviving and thriving. So I think of Grammarly as a great example here.
Or Bloomberg, you said.
Yeah, Grammarly was in AI, but they didn't do generative AI until like March or April. But they have 30 million customers. So they can show up late to the party and they have distribution. They can all of a sudden have 30. So that's what I think about with this space. And I don't know. If you look back at the economy, it's obviously been a challenging economy, and people were tight with the money, and they're even more tight now. And I think a lot of the VCs and private equity firms are just trying to figure out where to make their bets, and it's hard.
Yeah, because they're losing almost everywhere else too. So it's whatever move they make, I believe they have to make the right move.
Well, they know the next Google, the next Tesla, the next, I don't Meta, like they're going to come out of this economy. Like you're going to have trillion-dollar companies that don't exist yet that are going to emerge, and that's what VCs do. It's like, we can get 9 bets wrong, but if we get the one right, and so they're trying to figure out where those bets lie, and they're not. The next NVIDIA isn't showing up anytime soon, so if you missed out on that one, although I'm not so sure that it still hasn't plenty of time to get in on NVIDIA. Their demand's not going anywhere for their chips that are powering this whole thing.